All right, so if you guys can go to the insert ribbon. We've played with a few things in here. We're just going to quickly touch back on a few last things. We talked briefly about attach. Do you guys remember the difference between attach and insert? A little bit? Maybe not? Okay. Okay, so let's go over it. That's fine. So typically with insert, as we talked about it, that's bringing in an external block, right? So let's say I'm on a brand new drawing here, and I type in I for insert, and I go to browse. This is perhaps how you bring in that motor that we were working on, for example, last time, right? So what is that, Jen? Right here. This is where I can pick my insertion points, whether I specify on screen or actually just pre-designate it. Your scale, you can go 1 to 1. You can double it if you want. You can also break the uniform scale so that's no longer just 1 to 1, but maybe twice the height and 3 times the width. See, okay. And you have a very distorted shape now, right? So that's bringing in existing drawing packages. Now on the attach, this is where you can have external references. So if you guys remember the soap bottle, I think that's under yours. Okay, training. Do we still have it? Yeah, liquid soap bottle. So this is attaching an external reference. So let's see. If you type in the letters XREF, so XREF, this will bring up your external references list. So if you're bringing in other drawings or things that you're trying to reference, this will let you have the most up-to-date version essentially all the time. So if you are having a object that needs to be drawn out and you're referencing externally, it does not necessarily have to be a drawing in the sense of, sorry, a picture. It can be a drawing as well. So you can actually attach different things. Let me just jump back to my folder here. So on the instructor files, as you see on the drop down, there are other things you can attach. So you can actually just even go ahead and attach drawing files in here, like so. But notice how when you bring in an external reference, it's not quite the same as inserting the actual object. It's a little bit different colored, so it's a lighter gray color. And when you bring up your XREFs, it actually lists it as something different. So I'm just going to expand this a little bit better. There we go. So as you can see on the save path, it shows me where I'm referencing this from. What this allows it to do is, if something is changed, this allows you to actually have the updates get pushed to you. So if someone else is working on something, you can actually refresh the attachment. There's ways to reload it, and there you can see, whoops, down on the bottom here, nothing has changed. But if something has changed on it, so let me just see if I can quickly demonstrate this. Let's go. That's my top view, right? No, bottom, sorry. Wrong one. Just at bottom. There we go. Save that. Right here, do you see that status change? It says it needs reloading. So I can right click on that, reload it. Oh, come on. Do you see how that's updated now? And everything's good on the status. So insertion is good if you are trying to bring in something, modify it, and directly be able to interact with it. An XREF, or an external reference, it's great if you have something you're quite literally referencing only. So if a different department within your company is working on a project and you are just referencing something, let's say the staircase that we were working on, if you guys remember that one. So that was our civil example, right? Nope, sorry, architectural. Our architectural example. So let's say this was our actual drawing that we were working with, and we want to reference it. So let's say we go ahead and attach that, architectural. And good. Put that down there. Notice how everything's that darker shade, right? So I can still draw different things right as if it was here in the same space. And you can still create your layouts. Let's see. No, I'd have to hide it somewhere else here. I'll get into that one later. But the key is you can still continue drawing whatever you need, referencing the other models that you've brought in. This allows multiple departments to be working on the same project. So let's say the staircase section of the building, for example, without losing the ability to push that information through. So if I remember how we were talking about like the revisions earlier in the class, this is sort of that one way to push information through, but it's still, again, up to you working on this drawing, having a reference, this attachment I brought in, to ensure that you have the latest version. So again, I'll just show this again really quickly. Within the model space, let's say there was a modification to this. Let's say there was a division right there now for some reason. Save that. Again, right here it shows that's that same spot I was using. It needs reloading, because until you reload it, you have the last version you attached or reloaded. It does not show that division line. So here, I can reload, and there we go. Now let's say you are finished everything and you no longer need this. You can unload. So you're done referencing that model. Unload it, because then you can now go to your layout. I can print out the little triangle that I was detailing and referencing the little section of the staircase for. Do my annotations. Happy with that. Go ahead to my plot, and I can plot it to my PDF. And there's my nice triangle, right? So that's where the strength of XREFs are, and the difference is between inserting the actual block. Because if I was to insert the real block, So let me go back to this. Let's insert that block again. So now I'm actually inserting, oh great. Right, I need to break this first. Detach. Remove path. There we go. Now I can do this. Try this one more time. So I've actually fully inserted this now. Save this as my XREF test. So as I'm doing this, you guys can feel free to do the same thing along with me. I'm using just the old files that we were playing around with, right? So let's say there was, again, that same division, right? It's right there, you can see it. This is a block, so if I go ref edit, it's as if I'm modifying that real thing here. But now that's fine. This is my inserted block. Now if I actually jump back to this original one, and let's say there was not a division in that door. Save that, right? This is my original version I just inserted. And close this now. This did not update, right? Because this was my inserted block. So if I went to update, insert this again, right now, nothing would change. Oops. Specify on the screen, there we go. So I just made that change, right? We all just saw that. I made that change on the original drawing. I reinserted it, but because this is now an internal block, it does not have a link to the external. I've already taken that snapshot. This is the version that's live in this model space because it was a snapshot in time. So whatever I inserted it as at that one moment, so that it had the division in the door, it's going to retain that. That's all it can remember. It does not know the latest current change, which is, when I open this back up, this is now the original model, right? I can edit everything. This is not the blocked version. The line is not there. So is that clear, the difference between inserting an object and creating a block within your model space and the external reference?
So in most of the cases, you will use the attaching.
It depends. It depends on what your goal is, right? So inserting a block allows you to directly modify something. So let's say this was a standard staircase of your type A building, right? Every building starts like this, and then you're supposed to go ahead and modify from there. So if that was the case, then in a brand new drawing package, I would go browse. I would start with this because I know this is going to be my starting package, right? I will always have this as my base. I would then go explode it, and I would start modifying away, right? So let's say this version does not have dividers on the bottom and every third. So it looks like that, and that's just the way this one building is always going to be. And that's acceptable. So we'll call this architectural scaling type A, right? I'll just take a second. So that's an acceptable way of using this block system. Bringing in something that you know is a standard, that's your base. You design from there. So instead, let's say it has, oh, I don't know, halfway through something like this. It has a different type of grid system. So that's fine, right? That's a type A building. How that differs is that original block is always going to be starting off like this, right? It has all the 4 different ropes in there, because that is your company standard. That's what you have to start off with, and then you modify from there. So if your client was asking for the standard staircase, this is what they get. And then from there you would modify. The difference from that is, let's say you were doing your build. So let's see, gotta delete these. Insert. So now I'm gonna do the attachment method, right? For an external reference, I'm gonna attach the original version. Alright, so that's good. From path, everything's good. Say OK. Oh, right, that's right. Let's purge that. Okay, I'm gonna try that one more time. You can't, again, this is sort of where AutoCAD has a little safety built in, because if you are switching back between inserting and attaching the same file, it does warn you. As you saw there, I have to purge away the block so that it does not get confused of what you're trying to do. So I've purged away the block now, so now I should be able to attach this again. Yep, like so. So now this is my attachment. Again, this is building off that company standard, right? This is what you're supposed to start off with. And let's say I start trying some different stuff in here. Let's say there was a little design feature, kind of like that. So now the difference would be, this is my actual original file, right? This is the design standard. So let's say the design standard changed. And just so I don't lose this, I'm going to copy that away. Okay. Let's say the design standard has now changed. So that bottom rung is just gone on that one view forever. So right there, this little modification that you're doing for your client is not going to be possible, because that no longer exists in your design standard. So very minor differences between what insertion and attaching really does, right? Because at the end of the day, you're still just referencing a model to build from or design with. I think that's the biggest, yeah, that's the easiest way to describe that. So one is to design from. So you brought in a reference to design from, and insertion is to design with. So you're going to modify that actual thing. So best thing for you guys to do is actually, yeah, just try that. Start with a blank sheet. Insert that old architectural model that you guys had. Again, it's good if you guys can copy your own version. I think everyone online should still have their own versions on here. Just gonna double check, make sure you guys have the right attachments. Let's see, manage content. Yep, so everyone online still has access to that original architectural annotation, scaling, and multi-leaders file. That's what it's called, but yeah, copy to your own personal work work folder, sorry, whichever folder that is, whether that was on your desktop or you guys created your own somewhere within the share folders. That's fine. Start a new drawing. Insert a drawing. So you can insert this architectural one, for example. Explode it, do some modifications, and then try a different one and do an attach. Go back to your original one, make some modifications just like I did, and see how to update either one. Because there is also still the ability to redefine an inserted block. So this is my inserted version. If I go to insert, I can actually still reinsert. So right there, you're gonna get a pop-up. After you've kind of played around with that original file that you inserted once and then modified after, it'll ask you, do you want to redefine that block? You can actually redefine it. And as you can see in my redefined insertion, that line is gone now. It's not that one?
Not deer. It's like but like I don't have another option.
Oh, that's point cloud, that's the thing. So that's the wrong one. It's not attach. Point cloud is I don't think you guys need to know it for your certification, but point clouds have to do with measuring devices. So there's actually ways out there. So you can actually scan buildings, you can scan objects using a laser scanner, and it creates something called a point cloud, which is essentially like almost unlimited points. And it builds a model almost, and scan the whole side of the building, and then it'll give you all the different depths and things like that.
When you have the offset shield, right, doesn't have the inside structure.
Yeah, it's whatever you can scan. So there's ways to do internal scans too. Depending on the cost of your scanner, is depending on how well it can scan. So there's systems out there that are very simple. They're about the $10,000 range, where you would actually place it on a tripod, and you would aim it at certain points after calibrating it, and it would know the distance X, Y, and Z away from your station. So that's what you would create with a point cloud. So just in case you guys didn't hear that online, so when you're attaching something, be careful which attach you're using. There are different versions, or sorry, different buttons that both say attach. One says attach under the reference section. One says attach on the point cloud section. So a point cloud is something where an object has been scanned, typically with a laser scanner. Just mentioning there are very basic systems that range about the $10,000 range, where they are on a tripod system. You just measure different points within a building sometimes, or just an object in front with you. After proper calibration, you can actually have the distances and everything measured from one location. So you can measure out the inside of a building, the external parts of a building. And there's very advanced scanners that cost into the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, that can map multiple, like millions of points. So you would bring in a point cloud, because to bring in all those points might crash your system. A point cloud, I have not tried it with AutoCAD. I have seen it done. What happens is it brings in a reference so that you can actually then just draw what you need. So you would see all these millions of points, but then you would know, oh, there's my window. I only need the 4 corners. So that you can go ahead and clad around it if you're an architectural cladding company, or if you're the window company, like all-weather windows or Durabel windows, and you would then have a rough estimation of the window size. So a lot of this comes down to typically construction, sometimes manufacturing. Those are probably the 2 most common companies to use something like a point cloud, and it would then be used more by your subcontractors or your GC sometimes to do a quick estimation. So all this comes down to renovation projects, right? Things that are existing and then you're trying to modify from. Or if it's a new build, for whatever reason you weren't able to get the civil plans of the steel structure, you could technically scan it, have accurate measurements from there, and then build on top. So yeah, just be careful which one you guys are playing with as far as Detach. 2 different versions. So to modify this, now go back to the original file. So that's why this is mentioning you might need to save this to your own version because someone else might be playing with it. Or if not, just draw like a line somewhere. Doesn't have to be deleting anything. You just draw a line somewhere, save it, and then close it. And then if you have the right one. It should have a little exclamation mark. Hit refresh with the green refresh button. There, the green refresh, sorry, on the arrows, yeah. Well, it does seem a little good. Yeah, if you guys are all using the same file, it might not be working properly. If you're all like editing it at the same time, so try copying that to your own folder. Yeah, it's there. Just technically, just need to change. Yeah, that should change. You touch the right one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just expand to that. Can you expand your window to see the solution? Can you expand the path on the bottom there? So you should expand this, the whole window. Find the right grid. The right grid. The right side. Just over here. Just expand this. Yeah. Example solution. That's right one. So it should be WJ. Yeah. It should be the one. Let's see. Trigger. Let me take a look. Okay, I can see that modification you did. That's right. So let's say I draw something else here.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So the guy is computer don't know why I cannot use the Detach.
Okay, give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay, take a look at yours now. I just modified the same solution. You should see an explanation right now. See, so it's been changed, but now if you close this, and your attachment, okay, right click on it. Yeah, and then just go reload. There. It's just not refreshing. It's supposed to refresh though. It's supposed to alert you the status has been changed. Maybe it's a little bit overloaded because 8 people are using it, or 7 people are using it at the same time. Maybe it's not triggering it the right way.
Okay.
But it should have given you an explanation. But as you can see, it does reload.
Because they're using the same model, right?
Yeah. Which is good. Like that's actually how it would be used, right, in real life. Not sure why there's a sort of a lag on the trigger. So from here, practice unloading it as well, because you can unload your model now. So let's say draw something on here in this space. So draw some lines, you know, referencing the height of the door. It's like, yeah, it doesn't have to mean anything, but yeah, sure. And then right click and practice unloading it, right? So it takes everything away, but you can still reload it. The way to break it is you detach it. So if you want to break it finally, you're completely done with it, you detach, and it's gone. So there's differences in what those mean, right? Unload is good if you want to do your plot after you've maybe done your references. So you drew an addition to your door. Like it was a bookshelf or something at the height of your door, and you just want to reference it. Then you would unload it, plot your bookcase, and you're happy. If you're completely done with it, you will never need to reference it again, or for the foreseeable time, you can fully detach it and break that reference away. So it's not always just drawings that you're attaching, but sometimes it can be even company logos. It's something as simple as that, because if the company has a new version of a logo, you just want to reload it. And the way to know if it's the right version is having an external reference brought in, and then go from there.
Ask me to paste the.
Oh yeah, right, your thing. Here, can I see your computer? Can I see your computer? That's my job. Yeah. I just want to see your computer. Yeah. Because I remember yours has that strange problem where it doesn't bring up the window.
Yeah.
Google has lots of answers.
There's no face.
Yes, with the values, you want something to buy, you I don't know which one.
File dia. I've never seen that.
File, yes.
It's a system variable.
File.
I've never seen that before.
So,
Oh, that's crazy. change it to 1. And then
That
you're
is
good.
1, right?
Yeah. It was 0. Now it's okay. There you go.
No problem.
So something interesting happened here in class, guys, for our online group. If for some reason you type attach, and this window does not come up, and you only get a command line, type in file DIA, and make sure that the value is 1. If it's 0, you're only going to see this, where it only shows information in the file or the command path. It does not actually show the dialog box. So again, that's file DIA. Make sure that's 1. And then your window will show up. I've never come across this before, but that's something we just learned all in class here together. So again, this is a very simplistic looking command, but very important that we are all understanding how it works and the ramifications of how it differs. So again, just to reiterate, if you are looking to start off with a block to work with and modify, insert command is good, because you will bring in your block, you can go ahead and explode it and continue on. So if I want to go ahead and just bring in something like this, drop that there. Using that block, I can explode it, and it will not change anything on my original design. But I can design from here, modifying things as needed, and it won't really do anything to the original. Save that as whatever you want, and we'll be happy. The other option is bring in the external reference, because you're referencing that original model, making additions to using those references. And then at that point, you can choose to simply unload the model because you're now happy with whatever you've designed. You can do your different drawings. Oh, my triangle's gone, right? Let's say right there. That was my nice new design that I wanted to add to the staircase, referencing the staircase. But it allows you to also bring in that same reference again, just in case something has changed. Once you've brought it in, again, you can see those changes. And again, the way to break the relationship entirely is called detach. It will no longer show up in your external references list because it is now gone. Again, I can do that to images. That's now detached. And my genset bottle, detached. So all those things are now gone. Only thing that's still referenced, so to speak, is the physical drawing that or the model that you're working on currently, because that is the one object still here, right? This is my one model that I'm actually still working on, and you'll see how that differs. There is no saved path, because that is your one and only model. If you right-click on it, it does not give you options to modify anything. You cannot unload your current model because it is the model. And there's no way to detach or anything like that. It is just this one. So now really important also, practice doing an import where you have updated that original block and understand how you can redefine that block as well. So as I'd mentioned before, let me just bring in something. So I'm going ahead, I'm going to go ahead and import something again. I've now imported this piece here, 0, 0. So that's my original import. So if I go ahead and make a change to that original item, this one here. Oh, wait, sorry, I think that's the wrong one. Multi-liters, where am I? Okay, that's this one here. Okay, let's leave that. So this is that original one I've been working with. Let's say we do actually want this back. Insert it in here. I'm going to save this. This is the original file, okay? Saved it. It does not show up right away. What I need to do, type I, not insert from the internal memory, because again, these blocks are the snapshots, right? This is what it remembers. If I were to just simply say OK, insert this again, it is the same copy, right? That's the snapshot of time that I brought it in the first time. If I type I again, type browse, and I click on the same file again, say OK, it'll ask me, do I want to redefine the block? I can say yes or no. I want to say yes. There's my missing beam. Or sorry, not beam, rope. Now I just undid all of that. I'm back to the snapshot moment, right? That piece is gone. I can type I can browse and select that same thing, say OK. Don't redefine. And I won't see that change. So even I went to that path, pick that same drawing I just updated. If you then say do not update the reference, it won't. So be careful if you are trying to update your current blocks, you do need to remember to say redefine. So again, play with your model. One, play with the original model. Try reinserting it into another working drawing. But then also try modifying something on the original drawing and the external reference version that you're playing around with. And see how you can reload. And it should also give you that status update that something is being modified on the external reference. That didn't work for everyone in here, possibly because too many people are accessing it all at once. It could be a few things. Now, as you can see, I just tried to attach something that was already inserted as a block. You cannot do that. That is one of the limitations. So I'm just going to explode all these so I don't have any of the blocks left. I'm going to type PU for purge. As you can see in here, I have plenty of blocks, including that architectural annotation one. I can just say purge all, and that block is now gone because it was something I wanted purged. I can now attach as an external reference. There we go. So you can only have these living as one or the other at one given time in your model. You can either have them inserted as a block or an external reference. You cannot have both. at the same time. That make any sense? Yeah, try to save it onto your desktop so you guys can trigger that update request. It just might be a latency thing if everyone's trying to access at one time. I'm not sure. Maybe the network here has some little bit of latency, so it's taking a little longer.
So can't attach on the same person.
Yes, so if it has the same name, it cannot attach the same external reference because the block is living in here. So the only way to do it, type PU, and then you can purge after you've exploded all the blocks. So you can only purge the blocks are exploded because until then the blocks are still living in there. So if you click right now, if you haven't exploded the blocks yet, on blocks, expand it. On the top there. See how the drawing is not in there? And then click on view items you cannot purge on the top there. So check out. View items you cannot purge.
Oh, okay.
Open blocks again. And scroll down to the bottom. Oh, right there. See how the solution drawing? It's there. Because it's still living as a block. You cannot blow up the block until you explode it. Because then you will have removed any living blocks. So if you go close right now, select both of the blocks in there. Okay, and then type explode. Explode again. Okay. Now go and type PU. Now open up the blocks list. You should be able to see it now on the bottom. There you go. Because that's how AutoCAD protects you from breaking your own stuff. Doesn't want you to purge anything that's living, right? It's in your drawing. So the other thing you can also do, if you were to delete the block, it would still be in your block list. So you haven't exploded anything, but then you can actually still also purge it. Because if it's not living in your model space, as in like it's not physically there, then you can't purge it. Now if you click close, you type I. Yeah. It's right there. So this is still the snapshot memory of the last time you inserted this, the last time you defined the insertion. So this will have whatever you had at that moment until you decide to go browse or to redefine it. So let's say you've done changes now. You want to redefine it, so you want to update anything that's been modified. That's what you would do.
So you can do that.
Yeah. So you could open up the original block, make modifications, type I in a different drawing, and you would redefine whatever you inserted previously. So this, in this case, would be this drawing here. This is all getting more into file relationship management. So it kind of ties in with what we were talking about earlier in class, right? That whole revision control. Understanding this part is quite important because you need to understand how and when to use the two different ways of bringing in files. Much better now that you have a window.
Actually, I don't understand.
Okay. So I was trying to show the two differences of a block insertion and an external reference attachment.
Let's say this block.
Yep.
I want to insert it
Yep.
here.
Okay.
say this A88A.
Hey, cancel. Just go back to where you saved it. Sorry, the original. What did you do? Did you type right block or did you type block? Remember, block only saves it inside here. So you have to do it right now if you want to create it out externally. Now, we'll do an insertion. I think it was on your desktop. Yeah, here you go, ABB. So now this is a snapshot of that moment. So now if you open up the ABB and you make an edit, just draw a line somewhere. Or whatever. Save it. Go back to your drawing the inserted view. Nothing will change, right? Yep. Type I insert. Go browse. Say okay. It will ask you, do you want to redefine it? This will give you the option to update or not. So hit cancel for a second. There you go. Yeah. And you can see it's going to bring the old version, right? Now type I again. Go to browse. Go the same way. It's okay. It's okay there. Just redefine the block. See how all of them changed? Because those are all still the living blocks. The only way.
Sort of broke with the saving and change as well.
Now go Control Z. A couple times. Just go back. Control Z. Just undo. Just Control and then Z. So this is the last snapshot. Explode it first. Yes. Okay. Now insert a new one. Decide. Size again. And then you say okay. It's still only going to bring up the memory. So say okay. I'll type I. Go browse. Insert that one. Say okay. Say redefine. Yeah, and then say redefine. Say okay. There you go. See? So the first one's no longer a block. You exploded it. The other ones were still the linked block things, so they will all redefine. So that's working with the block side. Sorry, insert side. External references is something different. If you want to play with that one, and the same one, you have to explode all these blocks first. So we just pick all of them. I think one more. No, I just want to keep it. Okay, now go type P. So bring up your purge list. So expand blocks. See how it's there? Because you've exploded all of them, you're allowed to purge away that block. So for purge now, purge this item, purge all, that's fine. So hit close. Type I. It'll be gone for your list. Sorry, not hit cancel first now. Just on the drop down. Yeah, see, it's gone now. So now, if you hit cancel, you can start playing around with the external references side. And see the differences of how the relationship gets handled. It's similar, but a little different, right? So yeah, right now we're dealing with very, minor changes. We're just kind of playing with one file. But you can imagine, let's say you were doing a massive complex for something, maybe a whole refinery. You're bringing all the different external references into one master plan. You could have 10 different external references, and you can see the changes happen, right? You're going to get those exclamation marks if everything's working properly. The one limitation is if things are getting moved around, you may not be able to retain the links. You'll have to reattach links and reattach extra orifices. So fixing things on that side is not great. I'm not as well versed in the file management systems for AutoCAD and how they can retain external references. I'd have to actually look into that. If you guys have any sort of specific questions on that side of things, I do know that things like Inventor and SolidWorks, their file management systems can actually retain all relationships when we move things. I believe the 2D packages can as well. There's a few companies out there like Teamworks. I think it was called Teamworks. What else was there? There's Autodesk Vault. Autodesk Vault was another one. Those were some file management systems. How the Java applications going? How's it looking out there for you guys for work? Is it okay? Is there more things opening up?
It's bad.
It's bad? Oh.
They just changed the immigration policy, which is you require you to have relative, like the degree, relative job, but they don't accept engineers. So.
Really?
No.
There's too many right now?
I have no idea.
Oh. I know there are companies that can sponsor if they're willing to. What happens is there's sponsorship programs. You are then, I believe it's linked to the company for during the time of the sponsorship, but then they will sponsor your immigration.
Yeah.
So I've worked for companies that have done that. And a lot of, this is more just like general career advice. Sometimes to get your foot in the door, you have to actually look for things that are maybe not directly the exact position you want. So it might just be a drafter position, and there's nothing wrong with drafter positions to get into the door of companies, or it might be project assistants, things that are still related, but maybe not the final step that you want to end up at. But it's good just to get out there and try to at least, engage companies that are willing to, one, in your situations, possibly sponsor you. I've worked at companies where friends have had sponsorship from the company. They stayed there the full 2 years, and then they were able to apply for their PR or citizenship. So, I think Woody's also working on a program for things like that. So something worth maybe asking him about. Not sure where the plans are exactly on that stage of the company, but I can possibly ask him. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is something that's pretty important for you guys to understand how to keep those relationships, update, break, all that stuff. There's another thing we can move on to tonight, but just want to make sure everyone has enough time on this one first. He's an electrical firm. He's a principal engineer there. But yeah, I'm not too sure on the rules and the PR stuff. So I'll figure it out. But honestly, it's one of my best jobs. I've always been able to references. Right?
That is the same.
So I'll talk to Lydia, see what he has in store for sort of the next phase of this stuff. Because he does want to have interesting program to see how far along that's coming.
Detach?
Yes.
I'm doing the same thing as the insert, but
Yes.
when I edit in the original drawing, and
Do you see how it
and
says?
here, but I don't want to insert a new one. Oh no, attach a new one with the same.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
Because it only can have one file reference of that file, right? That's sort of where it differs, because you cannot explode the external reference. Actually, can we? No, there's no way to explode an external reference. That's where it differs from a block insertion. Because block insertion is just for that very reason. You would bring it in, explode it, sort of do your stuff. And that'd just be a snapshot, right? Or you keep the block living and you redefine it. So with external references, you have different options where you can reload it, and now it's just bring in the latest snapshot, just like that. Right? Because that's now all your updates. But that's different from the blocks. So you cannot have both living at the same time if they're the exact same file. So if you're trying to insert a block now, so you type I and browse to that file, it will not let you. That's how AutoCAD stops you from getting your blocks and references mixed up. Because
Yeah, on the other hand, if I'm in drop with BBB name, and I want to attach a file which is BBB as well, it doesn't allow you to do this because
it cannot reference it itself, because it would be a cyclical reference. Essentially, like AutoCAD will go crazy if you're allowed to do that. This is also a similar problem in 3D packages, where if you reference something in itself and it's cyclical, it can cause a lot of problems. Like I said, they're very simple commands in what they do, but they have a lot of importance of understanding how they work. So yeah, make sure you guys play around it. Try to break it, so to speak. Like, try to make it so you guys have really tested it out. What's up? So this is the block right now. Okay. Go back to the original that you inserted. So no, the actual one that you. So open up this file.
Yes, open the file. So you
have to open the original block. So go back to the model space and just draw some lines. Okay, go back to your, or save this first, sorry. Yeah. And for the shortcut, right, you go Control S, instead of always finding the save button.
Okay.
Yeah. Try to remember the keyboard shortcuts, will save you a lot of time. And then now type I. So if you just insert it right now, just so you can see the difference, say OK. Insert it somewhere. Notice how nothing's changed, because it's drawing from its snapshot memory, right? Because once you've inserted a block, it keeps living as that one block. So you can insert this 100 times, nothing will change. Now type I, go browse, and go back to the same file. Say OK. Or open, sorry. Say OK. Say redefine the block. And it will redefine every block. Now go Control Z. Z. One more time. explode one of those ones. Explode the top one. Just X. Okay. Okay, and then type I. Browse. And then browse that one. Say okay. Redefine block. So the one you exploded, right, just like normal, will not update because it's no longer a block. The one you did not explode is still the same block definition. And now you redefined it, so those two will be updated blocks. So if for some reason you needed to hold on to how it looked before the redefinition, then that's how you would do it.
So you would change to the original.
File editor, so you get the same video. Actually, when you edit it here, you only to save in the same file. It has been saved here, so that the same way.
Make sense?
How come
一
purge
般
is
情况
not
下，我都是用这种方式完成的，直接就
觉得在这里头是
直接就改了，它其他的配置跟就改，也是跟那个改结果是一
You
样。
cannot purge something that's live. It doesn't want you to use it.
所以你看，像我实践过它讲很少用，我这些10万课我想不起来。
It's okay, yep. And then now
但
it's
是你有修改的话，就直接就双击。
open up the block list. You can see it now. Let's go down to the bottom. There. Is that original? Is that the one you're inserting? You can purge all, you purge that one item, whatever you're trying to do with those. And now you should be able to detach.
因为这是跟快文件的一个文件，你打开这个快文件，它的里面是有的，在认识的这个里面它有save，对的。如果把有一个，反正那种方式我用不用我想，我是单个。
How's everyone online doing with the external references and block handling? Are you guys understanding how the two differ? So does that make sense? Is that good?
Yeah.
We probably won't move on to anything new. Is there anything that you guys want to review? Is there anything you guys want to review for the last few minutes here?
I think we're okay.
You're okay. Yeah, okay. I don't think I want to start anything right now. Next class, I'll just give you guys a quick glimpse. This is more kind of block insertion again, but so this is something called the Design Center. This is something a little bit newer as far as I understand for AutoCAD. They've had this in, again, some different programs I've used. They have different names for this: Content Center, Design Center. It's under the insert, and if you click it open, down in here there's a sample one, for example. If you open up a few of these, there's a few different options you can look at. Let's expand this so you can see it a little better here. Oops. Oh, that's not what I want. There you go. There you go. So within the tree, you would scroll on down. It should open up, I think, looking like this, if I remember right. It should open up under the AutoCAD 2017 list. Under samples, you can see a few different ones. If you go down to, for example, where is a good one?
I didn't use that in the in the past.
No, yeah,
Before,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, that's something a little bit newer.
Is it
So for
important form?
it's just nice because certain companies will have it already generated. Where remember you talked about just block management and how some things might be already generated. This is sort of AutoCAD's starter pack, but there's companies out there that will give you their content center. They want you to use specifically their equipment. So maybe in the PLC world, it might be Siemens Logic. It might be who's the other controller sets up there? A few of the other companies. I'm sure you're familiar with them, right? The different PLC controllers. They may give you a content center of their internal logic, so that you use theirs.
Looks the PSC use must.com.
The one I trained on is the really basic ladder logic one. It was RS Logic 2, I think it was. Really basic. Oh, okay. That's fine. Okay. So for the petroleum group, then maybe it would be. What would it be? Heat exchangers. So someone might have the whole heat exchanger library, so that you have your correct inputs and your outputs, right? So your line connections, they might give you a content center of that. Let's see if we can find something like that in here. So it's a little different, but this is pipe fittings. Plant process. Here we go. So stuff like this, right? This is the kind of stuff you guys are using in your different plant processes. So let's just, for example, let's insert this one, which will look good here. There, the electric heater. So instead of you having to draw out your electric heater, it's really small, but there you go. So this would be a canned block in the sense that it's already pre-made for you. A company might have their whole library built for you, and you don't have to draw out any of this stuff, and now you're using AutoCAD for its layout purposes. We'll play around looking through the library a little bit more in next classes when everyone's here. But there's a lot of these things already developed out there. Because again, AutoCAD is not a new thing, right? AutoCAD has been around for decades. So some of these companies have already dedicated themselves to developing a lot of work. So
for some company can save lots of time.
Lots, yeah. So it's quite simple. You can either double click and insert, or you can even just drag it out from here, and there's everything that you might need to do various designs with. Not only does it have blocks, it also has different line types, layers. You've seen us, trying to develop layers, right, manually, bit by bit. It's time consuming, but there's companies that, again, have already built up all of this work for you, and it's just up to you to bring it into your drawing package. So let's bring in some HVAC work, for example. So that's a fan and motor already built up. So there you go. Here's something that would actually happen. You could probably throw on that thermometer prior to your, what did I bring in again? What was this? What did I just bring in? Oh, there you go, my condenser. So for a piping schematic, that could happen, right? That's something that's quite plausible. Temperature going in, temperature going out. Did I have to do any work there? No, I just brought in the CAD blocks, right? Very simple to use. So this is where you could save yourself a lot of time if you are given a block library. There are some companies that offer giving the block libraries at cost, like you can purchase a block library. Some will give it to you as part of their tutorial packages within a company, so you can sign up to learn about a company's products, and they will give this stuff to you. This is usually developed by their engineering group, but it's used as a sales and marketing tool. Right? At the end of the day, people are trying to get you to purchase either their goods or their services. So if it takes them 50 hours building up a block library, but earns them 1,000 hours of earned business, it was worthwhile. Right? Because we've been developing blocks ourselves, and we saw it takes time, right, to draw things out well and for it to make sense. If someone else has done the light work, then that's great. So there's some electrical information here. So let's see, CMOS. So these must be some computer circuits, right? So again, I'm not in computer engineering or anything like that, but I'm sure that would be helpful for a computer engineer. Here's some electrical blocks. Does it look familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine this saving a lot of time, right? Doing a line schematic, not having to draw out each one or trying to find the blocks. If they're already included, you're happy. This one doesn't really have any layers. Layers, I think we'll find that actually more within architectural. So the architectural one's more the landscaping one. So layers, no, still not a lot of layers in there. Which one had layers? I'm trying to remember. Just saw it earlier. Some of these actually have the layers built out. Here's a lot of line types. So just like the blocks, you would literally just drag it out, and you would have all your line types loaded. So right there. I just added a whole bunch. There are some batting ones and other things I just grabbed in, but that'd be a fast way of loading up line types, for example. So end of the day, this is all about speed. So instead of you trying to redesign something, it's already done for you. So for the mechanical guys, this kind of stuff is great. Here are all your welding callouts. And those are all ANSI-standard. So things like that, a lot of these things are standardized around the world. They shouldn't really look different, so why do you need to draw it again? But yeah, we'll brush on that a little bit next time. Maybe we'll play around with some of those. All right, so yeah, feel free to play around with AutoCAD for a little bit here. We'll be here for a bit longer, but I think we're gonna wrap class there. So thanks for coming.